Well, Happy New Year to all our library patrons and to all our listeners of our podcast. Welcome to 2025. I know my year. And, we are looking forward to another year sharing books with all of you. We hope you have a good, restful holiday. And today, for our very, very first episode, we thought we'll take a page out of one of Corinne's favorite book from last year, which is called The Cure for Burnout. Now, as Corinne pointed out, if you have listened to that episode, spoiler, there is no cure, but there are things that we can do to just care for ourselves a little bit more so that we will be just a little less burnout, I guess. Can't avoid it, but yeah. So to do that, we are going to free ourselves today from any reading assignments. We're going to free ourselves today from topics that we are weekly topics. We are just going to do whatever we want today, which is we get to read any book that we like. And I'm joined today by Sadie and Corinne. And you can see that one of our book friends is missing. She has not just freed herself from the topic, she's freed herself from the podcast period for today. No, Emma is on vacation, and we hope that Emma, wherever you are, you're also enjoying some free time reading whatever you like, because that is what we did today. So before we start, before we talk about our books, I thought since we have just spent like a lot of time, looking back at our reading year, trying to pick those top 5 books. We thought maybe we will start the year with maybe a little bit of talk a little bit about our reading intentions, like something that we want to see more of or less of in this new year. What do we want our new year to look like? Or maybe what do we predict that is going to happen in our reading year in 2025? Now, I know when we were asked to pick a word to describe our year, we had frustrating for Corinne, we have tearful for Sadie, and we have short for me. 3 of the words that may have some negative connotations, depending on how you look at it, I guess. So do we want more of those this year or not? Well, Miss Corinne, I know that even though you said it was frustrating, your top book of the year was the one of the most frustrating reading experience, but yet it is still your top book. So perhaps frustrating is not too bad of a thing. So, Corinne, what would you like your reading year to look like? Do you have like specific reading intentions that you hope to achieve this year?
Yeah, so last year was frustrating in the books that I read that I enjoyed and the books that I read that I didn't enjoy. So it was kind of a strange year. I think that kind of looking forward to 2025, I would like to start reading more books that I enjoy. Um which seems like a bizarre thing to say. But I would like to kind of focus on maybe more of the genres that I really enjoy that I just for whatever reason in 2024 maybe like the grind of the podcast and frantically choosing a book on Thursday. Maybe I'll move my reading day to Sunday. Like I could really mix it up. I would love to read books in advance so that I maybe don't have to stay up as late on Thursdays. And then I'm subsequently quite late when I show up for the podcast. So that would kind of be my maybe like my New Year's resolution is to try and read the book not the night before. And read a little bit more of kind of like the genres that I really enjoy. And maybe again, maybe more books in translation. I think that I did some last year, and there's just a bunch of things coming that I have on my TBR for 2025. And so I'm really excited to see more books translated and kind of seeing more stuff that comes out. And I'm going to buy more books. That is a New Year's resolution that I can 100% absolutely guarantee that I will adhere to. I'm going to commit to buying more books from the authors that I love to support them. Yeah.
I mean, you know that that's going to be a win already. You know that you're going to do that. I don't think that's that hard to buy more books.
Not that this is a competition to see who like really achieved goals, but if I put that one down, I'm absolutely destroying.
Yep. And you want to get that in before whatever February date is. No
I think it's
tax.
like mid-February.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I've got carts in all of my favorite bookstores. I've got Monroe's, I've got Boland's, I've got Bookware. Like I'm ready for this. Hager's Books, I'm going this weekend. I'm excited.
All right. So you check that one off very, very early. I think for me, planning is a form of procrastination for me. So my spreadsheet is ready to go, my brand new spreadsheet. My reading journal is also ready to go because I'm still determined to take more notes, like when I'm reading, because I there's something that I did a little bit of it last year, but maybe I can do a little bit more. So I'm hoping to do more of that this year. Same with like Korean, like I would continue to be reading more books written originally in other languages. I had this arbitrary like, oh, it's 2024, so I want to do 24 languages. And last year I think I got up to 17, didn't quite make it. So I'm gonna like try my 25 this year, see if that I can get that done. But yeah, like I find that it's just so much like I think that's what keeps me interested because it's like there's a lot of different styles of storytelling and different ways that people write novels everywhere. And I like really like having that. And it's just every single time I experience, a novel originally written in a different language, there's always something new that I'm learning. So I'm hoping that I can continue in that. There's also a lot of offers, again, already on my spreadsheet or a list of offers that I have to get to. These are ones that I discover. They're mostly like influences on authors that I already really like, or like that they get reference in books that I've been reading. So, I got a list of that. So I'm just going to try to like tackle those. And yes, maybe have to buy some of those. That's fine. That's totally fine. And yeah, and I think, but the most important thing for me is that I need to be try to really practice this distraction-free reading. I am so bad at that. Like on the bus, I'm good. Like I don't ever feel like I need to like, do other things, but at home, I'm reaching for my phone constantly. Like just the excuse of, oh, I need to look this up. I need to do this. No, you don't. You don't need to do any of that. So I'm gonna try to like put my phone, like, like they say, put it far, far away from you so that you can actually just it's not within arm's reach, and see if I can help myself be a little bit more focused on my reading. And then I think tied to that is to be like I always have multiple books on the go, but I should just stop like starting a book and be like, oh, maybe I should read this instead. Oh, the podcast topic is coming. I should read this instead. And it's very easy on physical books already, but it's even easier on an e-reader because you have like thousands of books that is stored on there. So you can just like close one off and like open another one way too easily. So I am hoping that I can stop myself from again getting distracted and just like stick with the books that I'm reading. So this is something that I'm very, very bad at, and I'm hope that I'm doing will do better this year. So, Sadie, how about you?
So I think that I tend to stick to my authors. I have the authors that I know, I have the authors that I love. And so I think my goal for 2025 is to find new authors. So to try a bunch of new authors that I am not as familiar with, maybe find a new favorite, or just kind of vary my reading with authors that might not be as familiar to me. Kind of similar to Corrine, I would love to read more books that I enjoy and read more books that I'm excited about. I feel like this year there weren't a ton that I was super, super excited about, even doing my most anticipated episodes. There was, yeah, they were okay. I'm looking forward to it, but there weren't many that I was like really, really, really excited about. So I don't know how that it might not be possible. Publishing world, I'm going to leave that one up to you and see what you can do. But yeah, I think just kind of find books that maybe again, maybe it's just going back to the genres and going back to kind of the themes that I like to read, and seeing if maybe I can combine those two goals together and find a new author in a genre that I really like and can get really, really excited about it. I, as many people are probably aware, I tend to not have a lot of time to read not for the podcast. So I don't know how, but my goal is to maybe try and slip in some more than I did last year, of books that aren't necessarily just for the podcast. Find or maybe even just double up a little bit more. Maybe find more books that that are already on my TBR that I really want to read that I can use for different topics on the podcast. You might notice some random themes popping up on the spreadsheet, depending on what I'm currently reading. But yeah, definitely find new authors, try new authors. One thing I am afraid to say I'm a little bit guilty of is with books in translation specifically, I tend to read them for the episode and I don't read a ton of them throughout the rest of the year. So I'm going to jump on the translation book wagon with the two of you and say, let's try and read more books in translation as well. Yeah, so new authors, more exciting books, and translation is my 2025 reading goals. Let's say that.
Excellent. And publishing world, you hear Sadie, like, I think part of it too is hard because I know you read a lot of YA and there's not like a ton of YA books in translation, right? So I think that makes it tricky to pick, and to pick books from there. So yeah, so hopefully more get translated for sure. And yeah, I think definitely doubling up is a great strategy. That's how I kind of get to read stuff because I'm just like, okay, like and that's when this spreadsheet comes in handy when you already have a list of books that you're about to read. So you can just be like, which one of these will fit to this week's topic? So anyway, all right. So before someone just completely check out, we're gonna go to Miss Corinne for her free pick for today because this is a free play episode. Miss Corinne can read whatever she wants. So what does she actually pick?
Take a guess. Take a guess. I'm back on my nonsense, people. I'm back. I never left, but I'm even more back than I was before. Of course, 2025, the most important year because BTS is coming back. But unfortunately, there's only the one book written by BTS, which I did read, translated among other people by Anton Her and Claire Richards. So I haven't talked about that book on the podcast, but I'm saving that for a day when I particularly want to torture Virginia. And that day has not come yet. So I'm back on my other favorite horse. Again, speaking of reading things that I enjoy and maybe enjoying them a lot, I'm going to talk about my other passion, which is art crime and art history. And this particular book is written by someone who, if you're a big fan of like BBC, you might actually have heard of him. So he is one of the presenters, along with journalist Fiona Bruce, of arguably the greatest television show on history. Take that 20 Day Fiance, take that Better Call Saul, or other television shows that have prestige. They're all garbage compared to this television show, which is the greatest thing ever made. So far, it has 12 seasons. It started in 2011. They make about 3 or 4 episodes a year. They could make 1 million episodes, and it could be the only television show that I ever watch. This is, of course, Fake or Fortune, the absolutely pinnacle of investigative journalism and art. So essentially what happens on this television show is that people write in saying, I have this piece of art that my grandma had hanging in her bedroom since she was 12, and it may or may not be a Renoir. Or I found this garden sculpture that may or may not be worth millions and millions of pounds. Or a little old pensioner goes to an auction in a tiny little British village and finds a painting that he bids £100 on, and it could be worth millions. Or it could be garbage. Hard to say. And so what they do is they attempt to find out whether it is some sort of fake or just, an imitation, or whether it is actually a legitimate piece of art. What makes this television show so interesting is that they have a section that is about art history, but also it's good, plain old detective work. What's important in establishing a painting as legitimate is the provenance. So finding that chain of ownership from the artist going through the various owners until it ends up in the person's hand. And this is often very interesting because paintings are subject to the forces, the throes, the strained currents of history. So often there is a perfect line of provenance up until World War II, where the Nazis looted and hid it. And so that line is broken. Oftentimes, a person has a painting that they find out shouldn't actually belong to them, or that it was a very clever forgery made to trick someone or made to defraud someone of a large amount of money. You also, through the television series, learn a lot about the art world, the politics of it, the personalities involved, and exactly who decides what is a real Renoir and who decides that it isn't. It's a lot more complicated than you might think. And the presenters, Fiona Bruce and Philip Mould, do an excellent job of guiding us through it. Some of them end in a big payout, some of them end in absolute heartbreak. Some of them reveal maybe a darker truth about the art world than you previously had thought. Whatever it is, you always walk away with an appreciation of the art, an appreciation for good old fashioned detective work of going through dusty old archives or slides or flipping through old photos. And you also really learn a lot about the artists in question themselves. So, as I had mentioned, there are two presenters in this particular television show. One of them is Fiona Bruce, who is a journalist, and the other is Philip Mould, who has been called, let me check my notes, he's been called the art detective. He is a professional art dealer with lucky or good instincts, depending on who you ask. He wrote a book that is called The Art Detective: Fakes, Frauds, and Fine Search for Lost Treasures, kind of going through and detailing his own career as well as some of the truly exceptional finds that he has made by following his instincts, tracking down the clues, and working with people in the art world itself. I really enjoyed this book. If you're really into the television series and interested in how when you read an article about, oh, a newly discovered Monet, and you're like, well, how did they lose it? How do you just like misplace a bunch of paintings? He could tell you why. A lot of people put a lot of stuff in their attics that they shouldn't. And if you have ever had an instinct to go through an old barn, you definitely should do it because there's probably some sort of like priceless masterpiece in there. But also the shadowy world of the people trying to exploit just this. It's written in a very conversational, light style. There's not a bunch of thrilling insights, nor is the prose particularly good, but it's really, really fun. Sometimes it's just nice to be taken on a little adventure with someone into a world that you really love and enjoy. And so, if, like me, you are just so fond of art crimes and just really into the art world, and again, think that Fake or Fortune is the greatest television series ever made, you should definitely interlibrary loan this book. Again, I'm going to shout out in 2025 the amazing service that libraries offer, which is the interlibrary loan system. So even if our library does not have it, we will bring it in from you from any library in British Columbia at absolutely no cost, which is a pretty spectacular thing that libraries do. We have access to the University of British Columbia's libraries, Vancouver Public Libraries, Richmond, Hope, Victoria, other places in BC that I don't know about, Prince George. You can have books from any of those libraries that you like, and we will bring it here for you. So if you have a library resolution for 2025, I would definitely say to take advantage of that system. If there's ever a book that you can't find on our shelves, we would be more than happy to bring it in for you. So that's my plug. More art history, more interlibrary loans.
Well, thank you for that promotion. I've got one tally for you for art. How many are you allowed on this podcast for this year? Or
Ooh, do we want to set that of how many art books I can talk about here?
we should all have a thing. Like how many times can
Ooh.
Emma mention "You'll Know the Dawn," kind of thing.
Okay, so Emma's is Yona of the Dawn. Okay. Sadie, what do you think yours should be?
I mean, probably Kelly Armstrong.
Mhm.
Hey, but your resolution to discover new authors. So maybe I feel like maybe you will.
I might just have a really easy time of it then.
Okay, mine is art for sure, and probably BTS, but I, I I'm gonna say right now I will lose that. Again, 2025 people, 2025. Virginia, what about you?
I don't know.
Surrealist,
Yeah, that's not fair though.
isn't
Yeah, no,
it?
that's not fair because that's not a subject. That's not a like that could be. That's like you're telling me that I shouldn't read books. Like, like,
What about like the Spectre?
oh yeah. Mhm.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough because like 2 years ago, I think it would have been like cannibalism. But last
Yeah.
year, I didn't feel like there was as much of like a strong theme. It was just like all more bananas than the last.
Yeah, because it was cannibals, it was octopus. Right? See, maybe I don't have one, so I don't, I could just say,
Yeah, we're gonna put in Liz Spector for sure. Uh, maybe the word banana pants. But then you'll stop saying it. I do enjoy every time you describe a book as banana.
you workshop that and we'll think about it, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll do my talk and then you can pick up whatever words that you think I'm not allowed to say anymore. All
It's not
right.
that you can't say that. It's just a competition to say who says it least. I'm happy to lose this one. I
Yeah,
love winning. I'm happy to lose this one.
which is quite the thing for you to say because you hate losing. So, I mean, anyway, well, in the past year, I feel like I have discovered that I may have a potential reading, I'm going to call it twice removed cousin at the library. I'm saying it because I don't want to insult her by saying that she reads the same books as me. In 2023, both of us picked Shy by Max Porter as our favorite book of the year. And recently, when I talk about the book for the translation episode, Blue Light Hours by Bruna Dantes Lobato, that is her favorite book. And when I returned Childish Literature by Alejandro Zambra and translated by Megan McDowell, which you know how much I love those two, she said, "Oh, how was the book?" And when I was talking about it, she said, "Oh yeah, because I read multiple choice and I really like it." I'm like, "You read multiple choice? One of my favorite books of all time." How? So the Venn diagram is just expanding more and more every single time I talk to this coworker. And the book that I read for today, she saw that I had a hold on it and she said it would have been her favorite. And she was so wanted to put that on her list for this year's top three books. Unfortunately, it didn't come out in 2024. So she wasn't able to use it. So I am very excited, I think, to start off the new year with this book because I feel like I need to read it like immediately. And I read the first chapter and I had to like open my work email from home at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, this is so good. I just need to tell her that like right away. And of course, gotta set the tone for the new year, start the new year with a book that is short but also utterly unsettling. This is Such Small Hands by Andrés Barba, translated from Spanish into English by Lisa Dillman. It's a short book, not even 100 page, but it is so good. Your father died instantly, and your mother in the hospital. These are the words that the adults kept telling Marina. Words that get repeated to her over and over again until she says them back. My father died instantly, my mother in the hospital. Marina knows the words, but the adults think that she doesn't really know the words, know what they mean. The adults want her to feel the words, they want her to understand the reality, and they worry because Marina doesn't erupt, she doesn't cry, she doesn't react. Marina is the only survivor in a car crash that killed both of her parents. She remembers the smooth leather seats in the car. She remembers her mother telling her father not to pass. She remembers the silence. And it's not a lack of sound, but because the silence is very, very loud. And she remembers pain like electricity coursing through her. She remembers asking the people who were trying to get her out of the car, "What's that white stuff sticking out?" "It's your bones." She remembers the motionless arm, the raw flesh, the gaping flesh, sliced so cleanly that the skin fell away like a curtain. When her physical injuries are healed, her therapist told her that she's going to be moving to an orphanage. Along with a few pieces of clothing, Marina only has her doll with her, the doll that her therapist gave her, the doll that makes her feel safer, like a protection ward. "You're going to live in a nice new house," the therapist says to Marina. "A very pretty place with other girls you see. It's very pretty, you see. Girls that are just like you." And Marina wonders, what does that mean? Girls that are just like me. And she keeps repeating those words. My father died instantly, my mother in the hospital. And they became facts that she tells people. No different than when she says her name is Marina or that she is 7 years old. Of course, if you haven't figured this out already, if you're looking for a heartwarming orphan girl finding friendship story, this is not it. Things do not end well here. But this book is absolutely amazing. A masterful exploration of child psychology, of that fragile innocence that is so easily broken. And you get the point of view of Marina as she moves into this new place that alternates with the story that are narrated by the other girls. Sort of like a Greek chorus, using the first person plural kind of point of view. And from the time they lay eyes on each other, you know this is not going to end well. You know something is going to happen. And you see how Marina's arrival, what that does to the girls. Marina and her doll, just like that scar on her back, it inspires devotion, it instills jealousy, and it invokes violence. And I love this quote about what the girls think of Marina. They say it was as if Marina had already seen all the movies, already gone on all the field trips, already played all the games. There was something terrible in her past, and she has already lived so many things. Both the girls and Marina, they want each other's love. They want each other's attention. They want the other to be more like them, but they don't know how to go about it. And they're confused about all the feelings that they are feeling. And so it inevitably leads to just this horrible, horrible ending. All of this unease and all the tension, it's like amplified by the way the author writes. Yes, I only have access to the translation by Lisa Dillman, but is that kind of like phrasing and just the strange word order just a little bit different throughout the book that makes everything so unsettling? And you can tell that it's been expertly translated so that you can capture the author's style of writing. I can quote from this book all day long. I mean, this is a book that immediately we're talking about books that we need to buy. This is a book that I need to buy because it is just reading the book. It doesn't matter. I think you can read it like reread it over and over again. Maybe that's one of my other goals is to like reread books because I feel like there's some books that just you just want to read it again because the words are so good. A book where the author just reveals that darkness to us in the world, just pull back that curtain just a little bit so that we can see what's behind it. And he never indulges in it. He's not interested in the gore or the grossness. Like, just it's never too much. It's just a little bit, just enough to make you think and to make you imagine it, which, as we all know, is always way worse than if they actually write it out. Supposedly, this is a book based on a true story that actually happened in the 60s in Brazil. And it, of course, knowing that, it makes it even more chilling. And this is my Lispector, I guess, reference, because apparently this story, this true story, was also referenced in one of Lispector's short stories, according to one of the review, that may or may not have influenced the author's kind of writing the story. So anyway, if you're still not convinced at how disturbing and how unsettling this book is, even the epigraph says it all. It says, and when the doll was so disfigured that she no longer looked like a human baby, only then did the girl begin to play with her. It's an anonymous. It's a by a book called A Woman in Berlin. It's supposed to be an anonymous writer, but I think if you look up on Wikipedia, there is eventually they kind of guess who it might be. Anyway, so an absolutely Virginia book, just like Miss Corinne. She's gonna do the art crime, and I'm gonna do these disturbing literary horror, I guess you can call it. I don't know. They are just like absolutely amazing. And so I'm so glad maybe there will be more reading cousin books that will come up this year. So this is Such Small Hands by Andrés Barba and translated from Spanish into English by Lisa Dillman.
Horrible.
It is, and it's so great. That's what makes it great. Anyway. All right. Sadie. So we have both done like a very, very Korean and very Virginia book. Does Sadie have a very Sadie book for us?
In a way, I would say yes. It's a city book that fits with the way my reading went in 2024. I will say that and so this book actually got an honorable mention in my 2024 best books episode. It wasn't quite at the top to make it into those top 5, but I did enjoy it. I've talked about another book by this author on the podcast as well, which I really, really loved. And so this goes along with the theme of my year last year, which was to read more contemporary romance books. And so this is one of those. This is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. The Dead Romantics was the one that I read for our Ghost Romance episode, and I really, really liked that one. And so this one I was hoping, I picked it up because it was a 2024 release and I needed more 2024 books. But it didn't quite make it on the top 5, but I did enjoy it. So I thought I would start off 2020, didn't make it on 2024. There we go. So I'd start off 2025 with talking about it. In Ellerton, New York, the taffy is always sweet. The local inn is always under renovation. The burgers at the pub are always just a little bit burnt. And there will always be a rivalry between the local hot sauce maker and the honeybee raiser to win out for the town's favorite condiment. It always rains in the afternoon, and everyone who has found their way there has found their happy ending. And that's because Ellerton is not a real place. It is the made-up town in Rachel Flowers' Quixotic Falls romance series, a series that Eileen or Elsie is very familiar with. The 4-book series has helped her get through a lot of rough times. The characters Elsie knows as well as her own friends, and she has loved reading each of their happy endings. But then, a few years ago, Rachel Flowers, who was the same age as Elsie, died tragically in a car accident, leaving the series and the final 5th book unfinished. Now, it's been a rough year for Elsie, and she's really looking forward to her yearly romance book club retreat. She'll go with her friends, they'll read bad romances, they'll drink wine. They all live in different places around the country, and so this is the one time a year that they all get to see each other. But then, for random reasons, everyone just keeps canceling. Things keep coming up until it's just Elsie and her best friend. And then her best friend's boyfriend surprises her with a trip to Iceland. Instead of canceling, Elsie decides to go by herself. She could still use a week of drinking wine and reading bad romance novels, even if it's by herself. But on her way there, In the middle of a rainstorm, Elsie's car breaks down. She steers it off the road and over a small bridge into a small deserted-looking town, hoping that she can find a place to stay for the night and get her car fixed. When she steps into the pub, things seem weirdly familiar. The burnt burgers, the hot sauce on the counter, the local diner, the bookstore, the candy store with the best taffy around. Elsie starts to realize that somehow, unbelievably, she has found herself in the fictional town of Lorton. The town from Rachel Flower's books. Everything is so familiar. But all of the characters are stuck. They're all stuck at the last point that Rachel wrote them, unable to continue on with their journeys. Now, everything is very familiar to her, except for one person. That is Anders, the grumpy bookstore owner. She can't place him in any of the books. She doesn't know if he's a side character that she missed. She doesn't know if she just doesn't know which character he is and where he fits. Or maybe he's from the fifth book. Maybe he is the hero of our fifth book who has yet to find their happy ending. Now, Elsie cannot contain her excitement of being in her absolute favorite fictional town. She wants to see everything. She wants to meet everyone. But when Anders admits to her that he too knows that this is a fictional town and that he will not let her ruin anything for any of the characters, she's not quite sure what to expect. So the more time that Elsie spends in Alorton, the more time Elsie spends with Anders, she starts to realize that there's a little bit more going on to this town. There's a little bit more going on to this story. And there's a little bit more going on to Anders than she had originally thought. And she needs to figure out if she can escape this town without damaging too many lives in the process, or if she even wants to. So this was, in my mind, not as good as The Dead Romantics. The premise of this one was a little bit harder to swallow, I will say, weirdly enough, as ghost romance was the premise of the first one, but the premise of a fictional town, I don't know. But it is it's fun to see Elsie kind of figure out what's going on and figure out what's going on with the characters and who Anders is and all of that stuff. It's a very easy read, I would say. You don't have to put too much effort to reading this. You don't have to worry too much. Unlike Virginia's, it will be a happy ending. It will be kind of some beat kind of stories that you're looking for. And so yeah, if you are wanting something that is you can just kind of escape into, and I think that that's what Ashley Poston writes in her books. I've read the two of them. I haven't read I think she has two more that I haven't read, but I feel like she just creates work that people can kind of get into and escape into and forget about the real world for a little bit. In this case, very, very literally, as they're living in a fictional world. So that is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. Let me bring up the picture again. There we go. It's a 2024 release. Which I mean means not much in 2025 if you're looking for those books for the year, but but that's okay. If you're looking for more newer books, this would be a good one to put on your list if you like romance.
Thank you, Sadie. I mean, we always have one of those like read a book from last year, like episodes. So we have one of those coming up. So, it will be come in handy. And I love a fictional town. I mean, that I would never read that book, but I love a fictional town. That's something that I like. It's not a hard premise for me at all. It's like a fictional town. That's great.
Yeah, but your fictional towns are bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But and also maybe they're not real.
Yeah, whereas this I feel like is like,
Yeah,
it's Gilmore Girls and like it stars Hollow and she happens to be in there.
Charming, very charming. And I think they even reference Stars Hollow at one point in the book.
I didn't say I like this fictional town. I just say the idea of a fictional town in my Anyway, well, I'm so glad that all of us could start our year with something that we enjoy and love and derive joy from, to each their own. And I feel like as the person who keeps the spreadsheet, I always feel a little guilty whenever like my book friends say, "Oh, I have to read a book for my for the podcast," and then like it takes away from the other joy. And I never want this to be like, like feels like a homework, right? Because we're done with that. That's like in the past. So I'm so glad that we could do a free play one, and hopefully, we'll just the other thing that we could take better care of ourselves is maybe we'll just have to pick topics that is a little bit more general, right? Like one with like a red cover, maybe not red, but one with a cover.
You mean no more ghost romance?
We did ghost romance already.
I mean, Virginia, we all pick the topics. It's not like you assign these topics to all of us and we
No,
have
I
to.
understand. I know, but like
You're not the one to blame here. We
yeah,
all
but like I
equally,
just
four of
feel
us share the blame. 25% blame for
yeah,
everyone.
but it's not just the top, it's just the idea of having to read and give like it yeah, and like that take away from your other
Cut
reading.
this part out. This is
No.
a decision that we all do. We decided to do this
We just like to
podcast.
complain, Virginia. We just like to complain.
And I like to feel guilty. You go.
Yeah, that's very
It goes hand in hand.
Pisces of you. Gemini? I can't remember.
It goes nice. It goes hand in hand. One of us has to do the complaint and one of us has to feel bad about it. You know. Anyway, all right. Well, I'm sure my book friends Sadie and Corinne are also looking, and Emma too, of course, looking forward to this new year when we talk about more books that we love, hopefully. And I will promise I won't bring it back in 2026 and be like, hey, Sadie, you said you were going to blah blah blah. And did you do it? No, I won't ask. But yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for listening to us. Thank you again for supporting the podcast. And like Corinne said, come to our library, come visit, or use the interlibrary loan system. It is a great system. You have access to all the books you want. So on that note, we'll see you again next week. And happy reading.